So, good morning. Thank you very much for joining the Scale Factory AWS FTR webinar. We've got a number of people on from both AWS and the Scale Factory, and I'll do a quick intro. My role is I'm a partner account manager. I work with UK headquartered software businesses, and I help them through the myriad of partner programs we have in AWS. I've got a couple of slides to talk a little bit about how we can leverage the various programs to help partners grow. We've got Grace Blake Turner, who's head of police and public safety within AWS, and Grace will be following my section here and talk a little bit about her team, where there's a number of members that have joined, and talk about the experience and pedigree that AWS has in the police and public safety vertical. Then I think it's really, whilst it's important that we have representatives from AWS and our partner Scale Factory talking, I think to me it's really critical. I think we're very lucky to be joined by Raf Lassetto. So Raf is head of engineering at one of our police tech ISVs, Trilateral Research. So I don't want to steal any of Raf's thunder and talk about what Trilateral do, but he's got a couple of slides talking about the business and what they learnt by going through the foundational technical review process and how they've leveraged the programs within AWS to help the business. And then for the lion's share of the webinar, I'll pass over to Mike and the team at the Scale Factory, where they've got a number of slides. But enough about that. Thank you for joining, and I'd like to pass over to Grace.
Thanks, Grace. All right, let me share my screen. It's always good. We work in a technology company. Hopefully that's come up for everyone. Andy, is that on screen?
Yes, that's
great.
Up.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to everyone for joining. I appreciate everybody's days are very busy, especially after a bank holiday weekend, and we're trying to cram everything together. So I'm Grace Blake Turner. I'm the head of public safety here at Amazon Web Services. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and you've got my email address, which is gbt, very easy to remember, at amazon.co.uk. If any of you want to reach out afterwards, you are more than welcome. So the team at Amazon Web Services, we have been doing public safety for around 10 years now, and we have got a real mix of mission experts and sales industry experts to work with you. Myself, I was a police officer for 15 years. I left the Met 2 years ago. I do feel like it's a bit of an apology tour for the Metropolitan Police Service at the moment, but I know there are some great cops still in there trying to do their best. I left at rank of Chief Inspector. We've got John Black, who was the head of IT, which is the equivalent of ACO rank, BEDS, which is Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire, and Cambridgeshire Police. You've got John that you can see on the screen, and Fernando, who will jump on the screen later, who are our two partner ISV account managers. We've also got Elle, Roman, and Sharife. Elle was ex-Home Office in her time, and Sharife was ex-police staff as well. And Roman's been with us from early career talent for, gosh, coming up to nearly 4 years now. And we've got Hussein, who's currently doing an apprenticeship with University of Middlesex. So he's learning about the vertical, and he's learning about sales, and he's getting a degree. And Joe and Joy are our dedicated SA solution architects that can help out with any queries that you may have or may need some support on. This is Amazon Web Services. We are just the front door to a lot more going on behind the scenes of various specialists and support, such as Andy's team, that is available to you. So with that mix of industry and mission knowledge around public safety, we have 5 real pillars that we think about for our customers in the public safety space. The first is data. How can we help our customers get the right insight from data for what they need? A very common question we are getting at the moment is, hey, my boss says I need some generative AI, and we sort of go, right, what's that for? Because they just hear the buzzwords, they can't quite work out what they need, and we're trying to help them unpick that and really work backwards from their customer missions. The 4 missions below, the data which sort of underpins everything, are ones that we see time and time again in the space. The first is contact management. How can we support the demand in police forces and fire and rescue as well 42 out of 43 regional police forces, their non-emergency demand, so that's your 101 call system, outstrips their 999, their emergency demand. The Met is the only one where it flips the other way. The next pillar is sustainability. We know that with the government's strategic target, despite election year, that target's not going to go anywhere. It's really important. As we get closer and closer to 2050, there is going to be more pressure on public sector organisations, not just within public safety, to show how they are trying to reduce their carbon footprint. Some conversations we are having with chief constables now is, how does your sustainability plan look? And they'll say, we've got an electric fleet. We go, right. So we're trying to look around corners for them and see what we can do. The next is people management systems. This is something that is my favourite. It's very close to my heart. We are often being told, and I have seen it myself, we are very good at fixing officers once they are broken, but what can we do to stop them from being broken? We know the data's there. We know there's opportunities there to make interventions earlier, and we're trying to look around the corner and think for our customers on ways that they could do that, looking at that 10% of innovation that AWS does with our partners as well. The final one is digital forensics. This was sort of the first, I think, real play for partner space in Amazon Web Services. It's a really key pain point. Every investigation now will have some form of digital, whether it's a mobile phone, a body-worn video camera, a CCTV system. So we're really working with partners in that space to remove the pain points in the evidential chain that officers need. But what does that mean for all of you on this call? There's a handy map of the 43 forces, but we've got about 70 end customers in total because we have some foreign rescue. We also have the national space, which includes the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the National Crime Agency, National Counterterrorism Police, the regional organised crime units, College of Policing, Police Digital Service. There's a whole bunch of end customers out there. And we really do believe that 87% of them, especially in the regional space, are in greenfield with their cloud journey. They want to buy, they cannot build. And for smaller forces, that is the right message to give them as well. It's not fair that we look at a public sector organisation on taxpayers' money and expect them to have one developer that can create a complicated record management system overnight. It's just not going to happen, which means we can't support policing or fire and rescue missions without you. And we also, I think some of you may have seen these stats before, we know that with our partner space, we get a 20% shorter deal closing time, we get a 10% higher win rate, we get a 20% higher ARR growth, and we are 27% more likely to succeed with our customer engagements. So if you have one takeaway from my introduction today, we can't do this without you. And I'm really, really excited that you're here with us today. I'm going to hand back to Andy. Thank you.
Fantastic. Many thanks, Grace. So let me just share my screen. Hopefully you can see this okay. So my role within AWS is to help partners grow and to leverage the different programs that we have within the business. And I've got about 6 slides here. And I've got about 10, 15 minutes to talk through how we can leverage those partners to help your organization. And the second, let me just move that over. Hopefully you can see that okay. Let me put it in presentation mode. This is the first slide in the deck, and it's not here by chance, and it's really to catch the eye. And it's what we do is we can help partners sell more and spend less. And the idea is that by leveraging the benefits of the APN, the AWS Partner Network, we can help partners increase their visibility, whether that be internal to AWS or out there to the market. We can help partners spend less. So I'll talk a little bit about this later, but the spend less is very much about optimization. So when we talk about spend less, there's different elements of optimization, if you like. So there's technical optimization, where we can help partners, maybe they're on premise, so we can help them lift and shift to the cloud. We can help them optimize their solution, and there's certain total cost of ownership savings that be gained from doing that. Some of those could be time to market, but we find that if we help partners and work with them to become cloud native, so maybe using some technologies such as containers, such as serverless, the time to market and the technical optimization can be gained to reduce the overall cost for that particular partner. In addition, there's commercial optimization. So there's different. If you imagine an instance is like a virtual machine, so running your data. Um, there's on demand, which is your standard service, which is running, but we also provide spot instances. Now, spot instances are fantastic for your test and development workloads, where there's up to 92% savings across all your instances across your estate. Furthermore, if you can predict your cost or your utilization into the future over a 2-year period, you can take advantage of savings plans and reserved instances to further reduce your costs. Now, you might think this is slightly unusual, and I've been on calls where there's been an account manager, Fernando or John, where they've been talking to a partner, and the conversation has been along lines of, we would like to help you. We'd like to help you save money, reduce your costs, and often I've been in the technology industry for goodness knows 20, 30 years, and it's always comes with a sort of a caveat of yes, you need to spend now to save over time, and the return on investment is 48 months, 36 months, things like that. But it's really refreshing, and I've witnessed this in my almost 3 years at AWS, that we have a very much a long-term view of growth here. So our partner's success is our success, and I've I've resisted the temptation of putting a photo in of Jeff Bezos, but this very much comes from very Amazonian in its nature, if you like, that we support our partners, and we do take this very long-term view of growth. So we want you to be more we want you to be profitable, because that will help you and that will help AWS in the long run. Further to that, we have proactive price reductions, and I believe there's 117 year to date of different price reductions across the board for different services. We provide a range of different tools, so you can set limits, you can see exactly what your AWS spend is over a period of time for all your services, and that is all available in the console. So that's how we help you spend less. Often people will go, "That's fantastic, Andy," but what we want to do is we want to sell more. And if I'm being honest, this is the bit that really excites me as well, because we want to do is we want to get the message out there. We want to increase the number of customers and increase the number of users that we have on your particular platform. Now, there's various different ways, and there's a very simple 4-box model here. If you think of what you're doing right now, so you're selling your core services to your existing customers, so that's the green circle in the bottom right. So what else can you do? You can either sell more stuff to your existing customers, and that's your kind of your top box there, additional. And the ways that we can help you do that are looking at different technologies that maybe we can incorporate them into your existing platform. So whether it be compute, storage, this will all be very unique to each business. And a real huge hot topic, and yes, I'm going to say it, is generative AI and ML. That is huge at the moment, and I can't think of a partner that I'm speaking to that we haven't brokered that conversation with. Equally, serverless going cloud native, front end and web and mobile. But these are all different ways that partners can leverage these technologies to bring out like a version 2 of their software, if you like, or version 3. But when I kind of present this, and partners, certainly maybe CTOs, certainly the kind of head of sales, go, "Well, Andy, this is fantastic. This is a kind of 12-month, 18-month type of conversation. Yeah, we want to do this, but really." We're at a position in our growth phase where we want to just sell what's on the truck right now, and this is stuff for the kind of the future. So what we can do is, we can be talking to the product department, and we can talking to the technical teams about maybe some of these exciting type of technologies that are really hot at the moment. But equally, what we can do is look at going after new customers, and this is where the head of sales, the CEO, they get really, really excited. So it's, what do we do to help you get new customers? So this is probably the kind of the most detailed slide that I'm going to go through, really. And there's just a number of icons on here, and I'm going to talk about them in probably a little bit of detail. So whether your business has a direct sales team or you sell for a reseller, what we can do is we can help you leverage the visibility of your business, not just in the UK, but globally. So the top left icon there is the AWS sales teams. This is where we link in create a knowledge with the AWS sales teams, not just in the UK, but globally, of what your individual business does. Now, there's certain platforms that we can do that. There's certain programs, there's certain little bite-sized videos, but it's a way, and there's certain ways that we incentivize account managers within AWS. So it's in their benefit to sell your software solution. So this is where we could, if you were thinking about reaching out into a new region, where maybe you felt that it was useful to sell into America or into Asia Pacific. Maybe you felt that there was a market there, but you felt that maybe you didn't have feet on the ground within that region or country. We could link you into resellers. We could link you into AWS account managers who know the market inside out and back to front. So there will be a Grace, there'll be a Fernando, there'll be a John in different teams globally, and we can link you into those people that will give you local knowledge of that particular region. AWS Marketplace, the top middle, it's a curated digital catalog. So you don't need to log on. You can just go to Google and type in AWS Marketplace, and it's a store. It's a global store where you can sell your services. So I was on a call yesterday with a partner who said, "Oh, is it like G Cloud?" It's similar to G Cloud in the sense that it's a way of having visibility of your services. But what Marketplace gives you is it's completely speeds up the governance, because all of the commercials are already in Marketplace. In fact, your end customers can come along and they can download through APIs your services either in their own AWS instance or in your AWS instance. The marketplace can be used for SaaS offerings, it can be used for consultancy on a day rate, or it can be used for content. So we find that lots of the educational partners put content on marketplace as well, so they can sell that content. And equally, I think it's important that certainly in the UK, where businesses such as Softcat, who are on pretty much every public sector framework you can think of, Softcat have the ability to resell partners' solutions via marketplace. So just think what that might mean. Marketplace is really the best way of thinking about it. It's like another channel. So just think what another channel would do for your business, and then it's another channel, but then you've also got the likes of Softcat or Bytes or CDW possibly reselling your solution through marketplace. Now, partner funding is, I could probably talk for about 35, 40 minutes on partner funding. There's a completely separate slide deck. So partner funding is it can be cash, it can be credits. Partner funding increases where that partner, their position on the partner path. So there are hundreds of thousands of partners within AWS. And then if we narrow that down, there's 5 different paths. There's the software path, there's the services path, there's the hardware path, training path, and distribution path. So we're talking about the software path here. And within the software path, there's 5 different stages. From the beginning, which is just registration, where you register on the APN, to differentiated, where you've got a competency, you've got like a badge that demonstrates your credibility with references, public facing references. The funding that is available increases exponentially, and that funding can be for training. It can be for proof of concepts. It can be to help you if you are struggling, if you're competing against an on-premise provider. We can give you percentages up to 25% of the first year utilization as credits. And when I said cash, it can be what we call MDF, or marketing development funds, where if you are wanting to exhibit at a trade show, we could provide cash funds to help you exhibit. And the way that works is on a 50-50 basis, that if you were to put in $2,000, then we would match that with $2,000 to exhibit. Or it could be to do some list generation, or it could be a case study, or it could be a blog. So there's a range of different options that we've got to increase the visibility of your business out there within AWS and the market, and to increase the chances of you winning business. Now, sometimes that's those incentives, those credits, they can be useful for your business, or it's up to you if you wanted to pass them on to your end customers or not. But typically, there's no automatic way for us to pass the credits to the end customer. It would be via yourself. Now, bottom left, part of the government spend commitment. Now, this is AWS signed a memorandum of understanding with Crown Commercial Services, the UK procurement arm for the government, where all public sector gets treated as the same. So typically, if you're a BBC or a Netflix, then the size of your entity will determine the buying power that you've got. Within AWS, we felt it was important that whether you're a police force or whether you're the MOD or whether you're a hospital or a school, that you could benefit the same potential buying power. So all of the public sector within AWS gets treated as the same, and they all have the ability to leverage the same discounts on AWS services. Now, in order to go into that in greater detail, we do ask that we sign an NDA. You sign an NDA with us to talk about the percentages and exactly how it works. But I'd be more than happy to jump on a call as a follow-up and talk about exactly how that works. But it's clearly a very, very important mechanism for police forces to procure police forces that have an enterprise pricing agreement with AWS to get discounts and to offset utilization in their EDP with partner business. So AWS marketing, I mean, I've spoken a lot about marketing already, but we can leverage partner and virtual partner marketing managers to help you with viral campaigns. There is a complete portal, the marketing portal, where you can get access to text information, use cases, contacts within agencies to help your marketing teams. And bottom right, global. So this is whilst my role is to work with UK headquartered ISVs. Often they have aspirations, and we talk about the 3 or 5 year plan in expanding into new regions and territories. And whilst I don't have any examples to my fingertips about within the police and public safety right now, what I can tell you is that in another vertical I support, which is the education vertical, we've helped partners expand into around Europe, into Australia, New Zealand, and these are all ed techs, and certainly into North America. So selling into universities into America as well. And part of that is just linking. There'll be a trade show, which be very specific about education. There'll be a trade show within Philadelphia in America, and we can arrange with partner funding for that partner to exhibit at that trade show, to meet all of the AWS senior managers for sales, whether it be higher education or, as they call it, K-12 schools and colleges over there. This is exactly the sort of thing we could do within the police vertical to help you grow, to help you increase your business, and to help you expand exponentially. So any questions on this slide, please put them in the chat or save them towards the end. I'm more than happy to go into any further detail here. So how can we help you? What are other ways that we can help your business? So there's a team, it's a local team within the UK, and each region has got its own team. It's the proposal capture and proposal team. So lots of words on the slide here, but I'm just going to, if you look at the box on the left first, so the proposal manager, they will scour public sector portals, and they will provide, it's every couple of days I'll get an email saying, Andy, do you know a partner that has this capability, that has that capability? And I line up partners that have that capability, and I will ping them a message, and I'll say, look, were you aware of this? Were you responding to it? Chances are, yeah, they might well have been. But what we can do is that team can help not just identify the opportunity, but they can also help pull text together in responding to that particular tender. So whilst you'll know your individual business inside out and back to front, and the USPs and the unique problems that they solve, if there's any questions around why cloud or any kind of security type questions, then we can help provide text and to provide responses that you can drop into your RFP, and something that into your RFP response. And what we're seeing more and more now is that there's always questions around sustainability, and we can run carbon reports on your if you're hosted within AWS, we can run reports and determine how many tons of CO2 you're saving. We can produce a carbon report that you could then drop that into your tender response. I think pretty much every public sector tender that comes out has got a sustainability type question. So we could put that in as equally with security as well. So we can help you provide and ace those questions and score 10 out of 10 in your tender response. And the way we do this is we provide there's a partner portal, there's partner packs. If I can email them out, if you were saying, Andy, what's the procurement route for in Canada? What's the public sector landscape in Canada? I could send you an RFX aid for a particular vertical in Canada, and we can provide letters of support that partners include in their tender documents. And it's a global team, which has knowledge pretty much in every region that AWS operates in, which I think I think off the top of my head, it's 92, 93 countries globally. Now, if you thought you couldn't read the last slide, you really can't read this one. So the message here is that how do you stand out in a very, very with hundreds of thousands of partners with the AWS? And the answer to that is competency. So competencies are like a badge of honor, if you like, and they can be split up into industry, use case, or workload. Now, the really important thing is that industry, when it comes to industry, you could have a competency for public police and public safety, of which to gain that, you have to demonstrate that you've not just technically got the capability, but you've also got referenceable case studies. Like I said, it is a badge of honor. It's a badge of honor that not just for customers, there is a high bar to gain it as well, but you'll get access to increased programs within AWS, and you'll get a further $10,000 of marketing funds that we can spend on different events, different shows. So really just wrapping things up, Nirvana's the top right. So this is where we want to help you. We want to help you grow. And of the 5 different stages in the partner path within AWS, if you kind of bundle them together, if partners are on the first couple of stages, last year we did some analysis across all of the public sector in the UK, so local government, health, police, education, central government, or not for profit. And if we look at all those different verticals and UK headquarters software businesses, if we look at the first 3 stages of the partner path, we can see the partners have a 6 times increase in their utilization. So 6 times increase in their number of customers, number of users they have on their platform. For the last 2 stages of when they've got a competency, they've got a solution on marketplace, and we're helping them go global, we'd see a 10 times increase. So think what that might mean to your customer base if you had 10 times more customers or 10 times more users, and how that can really help you, sell more and scale your business. So that's it from me. I think I might have just gone over slightly. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and pass over to Raf.
Yes, thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. And once again, thanks to the AWS team and the guys at the Scale Factory for inviting me to share with you what the experience of Trilateral Research has been in becoming a partner as part of the AWS partner network. So I'm just going to share my screen just quickly. Hopefully you guys can see that.
Yes, we can see that.
Yeah, let me go into percent mode. Is that working? Yeah. Is that working okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay, cool. So just wanted to briefly introduce myself. So my name is Rafael Loseto. My professional friends call me Raf. I am the head of engineering at Trilateral Research. And in the past years, I have been working for about 7 years in the financial services industry, where I had the chance to do some organizational coaching, which is not really my expertise, but let's say I do that for passion. And when serious, I'm an engineer, and today I'm a head of engineering. And just the rest of the time, I like to say that I'm a maker. So I'll make stuff like nice slides like this one. in my spare time, I also like to compose some music and have lots of hobbies, let's say. So that's a bit about myself. Now, Trilateral Research is an organization that produces ethical AI-based solutions, and is quite strong positioned within the public sector, and we have also some clients in the private sector. What makes Trilateral Research different is the fact that we use a sociotech approach to the development of our solutions, which means that we integrate the subject matter experts, ethics experts, and of course, experts in the engineering field to produce our solutions. So that said, I just wanted to give you a sense of the how does the process so the development cycle looks like at Trilateral, which I think it will be quite common between organizations who produce solutions for police agencies, for example. So we of course have a workflow analysis where we understand that together with our subject matter experts, how does that how do the processes are, what are the dynamics in the daily work, and how does that then how can we then help them achieve a better efficiency and produce solutions that help them do better. Then we use our socio-technical implementation approach to build our software solutions. And then, of course, we introduce some explainable AI and assurance aspect to the solution so that our software is clear to them how the outcomes produced by the models that we develop can help them, and how did the machine come up with certain outcomes. So pretty much this, of course, at every stage of in this process, just like very likely to in some of in your companies, there are different checks that the solutions need to pass. So I wanted to explain how the FTR process, so the foundational technical review process, helped us shape the way we perform those checks and AI assurance checks. I've been saying checks. Okay, so at the beginning, of course, we have our user needs analysis, which we need to verify that indeed they match what the expectations are from the agency. We make sure that there is the context also applies to their operations, and so on. We decide which are the better domain methods to be applied in the solution, and so on. So we also have an ethics impact assessment, an AI bias mitigation, and of course during the development process there is just a check of acceptance criteria, making sure that the solution meets the requirements that the business provided to the engineering team, and in the end there is a whole process of checking, verifying, and monitoring that the ML solution, the AI solution, it's actually performing as expected. So this is nothing new. So many of our organizations very likely have these type of checks. But then when we started the process of working, the process of going through the foundational technical review, we started to notice that many of the evaluations and assessments could be actually integrated into our development cycle. And I can mention a few of them. For example, we have an impact on the system workloads. So during the FTR, it is necessary to understand what are the core workloads that your system on which that your system has, and how they then as in it's like the core. Let's say these are the core functionalities, or those components that serve then are the pillars of your software solution. So we integrated this type of checks and evaluations also at the beginning of the process. So we also, after, of course, together with the ethics impact assessment, we integrated analysis on sensitive data. So whether there is a sensitive data involved in the new functionality, or if the new client we are onboarding wants to utilize sensitive data in the solution that we provide, and what are the regulatory compliance steps that have to be checked. Same for the more engineering and implementation phase. So the FTR gives you almost a checklist that is very easy to go through, and therefore it's easy to identify all those categories of services that you need to always verify every time you make. So when new features are implemented or new changes are going to be delivered, you have an easy list to go through and verify that that you're meeting the thresholds of assurance and that you're not introducing new risks. And at the end, of course, there is that also operational security, backups, and recovery. So, and in essence, guaranteeing that the system is resilient. So this sounded like a very long process, but at Trilateral, this actually takes it has quite a short loop. So we are talking about every new functionality that we deliver, and it takes let's say 2 weeks. If we go through all these verifications that have been enriched by following the foundational technical review process. So just to then give an idea of the benefits that we have experienced so far. So today, of course, we have increased our technical robustness. It is very, very easy to follow not only the validation process that we had previously, but we have also integrated some of the validation steps that AWS provides you through the foundational technical review process, and just by integrating them into our development cycle, it's quite easy to now to be sure that your tech solution is secured and robust. We have, of course, enriched our operational validation process, as I mentioned, and this, of course, inspires some confidence and trust to our clients. What we expect to see then in the near future is some new opportunities of collaboration as part of the AWS network. Of course, the network there are many organizations just like you guys, and there is always this opportunity, for companies to get together and potentially build solutions that integrate each other. There is, of course, a faster customer technical onboarding due to the fact that thanks to the architects in AWS, they give you they guide you through changes that can be made to your solutions so that the customers can be onboarded with ease, which is often is one of the is one of the pain points from the client perspective. And then, of course, there is access to POCs and market development funds. So at Trilateral, we like to experiment a lot. So this is also very useful if your organization is also interested in trying new technology, or just trying to prove that a specific idea of new functionality that probably you would like to deliver to your clients could be useful, and how to integrate it with cutting-edge technology, which also you have access to through AWS. So that's that's it for me. that was my quick run through. I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have. Just feel free to share them. You can contact me on my through my email address, and yeah, that's That's it.
Many thanks.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Raf. And I'll pass over to Mike.
Thanks, Raf. Thanks, Andy. I'm just going to bring up my slides. Cool. Hopefully you can, everyone can see those. So a little bit about me. My name's Mike, and I'm Chief Consulting Officer at a company called the Scale Factory. And at the Scale Factory, we're essentially a technology services partner. So we're an AWS a services partner ourselves. And our specialism is working with software vendors, so ISVs, SaaS companies, and so forth. In essentially accelerating growth ambitions, so providing whatever support and sort of experience and capability is needed to hit those plans really. And we've worked with lots of organisations going through a foundational technical review. So what I'm going to do today is talk about the foundational technical review in more detail. I'll cover a bit of background and some context about why, sort of echoing really the other side of what Raf has been talking about with the sort of benefits of it. What is the review itself, and how to get started really, and a few tips and recommendations. So to start with, for a little bit of background and context. In the old days, people would buy software. We'd all buy software by going out and purchasing a CD, or even older than that, sort of floppy disk, or you might download a piece of software and you'd install it and you'd run it. And so let's say, for example, you needed some finance software, or even things like word processing you can now do in the cloud. You don't have to go out and install, say, Microsoft Word on your laptop anymore. But what that meant was you, as the sort of purchaser of the software, were responsible for upgrades, backups, just running the software and making sure it was online. And most organizations don't want to buy software like that anymore, or at least software that is not core to their business. So a lot of organizations now, for example, will use Office 365 for emails, because there's not a huge amount of value in having a team of people sat around managing Exchange email servers. And what's happening is that landscape is expanding and cutting across other tools as well. Finance software, a lot of organizations, especially smaller organizations or smaller, public sector organizations are not likely to go out and buy software and install it on a physical server at the office anymore. They're gonna look for a cloud version. And we're all doing this ourselves as individuals. So with that in mind, if people are looking to buy cloud software, it's essentially what we call software as a service, and it's delivered as a service, it's usually web or app based, hosted in the cloud, covers multiple tenants. So a company running a software as a service will normally do that for more than one customer. It's provided by and large over the internet, so it's not delivered, on premise, and typically build on a subscription basis. So sort of moving away from that, server licensing model to pay per user, or pay per report, or pay per action. In this landscape, the organization providing that software as a service is responsible for upgrades, is responsible for making sure data is backed up and it's resilient and it's highly available, and so on. I'll come back to SaaS in a bit, but the other narrative that I wanted to cover was about the landscape of people looking to migrate to the cloud, essentially, there are still lots. I don't have a figure off the top of my head, but most software is still run on premise. Most systems are still run on premise. So there's a lot that it isn't in the cloud, and 62% of European enterprises are prioritizing moving more systems to the cloud this year. And AWS is the leading cloud provider. So out of those organizations, most of those are either already using AWS today, and they're going to look to consolidate more of their systems on AWS as a cloud platform, or they're considering using AWS. And if we bring those two pieces of information together, what we're looking here is organizations who have systems on premise today that have ambitions to move those to the cloud, and they've got a decision to make. And that decision is they either lift and shift what they have. So they take the software that's installed on those servers and they run that in the cloud, or they buy that software as a service instead to provide the same functionality. So there's that decision point in that migration journey, essentially. And if you are a software company, if you're an ISV SaaS company, and these enterprises are looking to replace their existing systems with a cloud version, obviously you would like them to pick your solution. So how do you stand out from the crowd? Because at that point, if an organization is going to look to replace their system with a cloud version, they're going to assess multiple vendors. And obviously, we want the solutions that we're building to be shortlisted, if not, selected as the to sort of win that contract, win that bid. And so we'll set out and we'll look to do things like maybe go through ISO 27001 for regulatory compliance to get that certificate for the software to show that it meets this information security bar. And there are other things that we can do to sort of build on the credentials of the software that we're building. So this is sort of where this circles back around to the FTR. So aside from the features and functionality in the software, which a prospective customer will look at and evaluate, they'll also look at non-functional requirements. So aside from, does the software have the capability of, if I click a button, it's going to generate the type of report I need? They'll look at some non-functional requirements. By sort of partnering with AWS and going through an FTR, you can sort of present a sort of really good case that you are ticking all those boxes, that you are doing the right things in the cloud. So I'll talk a little bit about that more in a minute. But essentially by engaging with that partnership with AWS, that provides an advantage. Those organizations are looking at if they're already using Amazon Web Services as a cloud provider, and you are partnered with AWS and your software is built and hosted on AWS, then that's going to give you a bit of an edge over some competitors, because I already trust AWS as a cloud. The other thing is the AWS Marketplace provide buy-in options. So what that will do is enable the prospective customer to if not purchase your software through the AWS Marketplace, sort of see that on the, look at the shop front really and have a look at it and say, okay, cool, hosted in AWS, it's been, accredited by AWS. Let's, that's a tick in the box. That's a good thing. As part of that marketplace listing, the foundational technical review comes into that, and that builds confidence in fitness for purpose. So I'll talk a bit about what that means. I mean, Raf hinted, you know, talked about that a little bit in his talk about the process that Trilateral have gone through with the FTR to ensure that their software, you know, meets that really high bar. And all of that comes together really to, you know, enable the opportunity to work with AWS for co-sell opportunities. So if you are using AWS for hosting and you're not AWS a technology partner, software partner, and the organization who you're looking to sell into are looking to migrate to AWS and are looking to potentially replace a solution with cloud offering, then AWS is the common connection there. And so they, you know, there could be an introduction, deal support, lots of stuff that Andy talked about that could help you, you know, get you know, really get shortlisted in that RFP process. So how does the co-sell journey work? Essentially, if we assume that you know, you're already signed up as an AWS software partner, if not, that's the first step, and that's pretty straightforward. So you can sign up as a software partner just by, you know, sort of Googling it and going onto the AWS website and filling out a form. Once you've done that and completed the onboarding, there is a system called the Amazon AWS Partner Network, so the APN or Partner Central, and you can go onto Partner Central, and there's a little form, and you just create an offering for your solution. So you fill out some information about your offering, and you create that. Now that's logged in the APN. The next step then is to get that validated by AWS. And that validation activity is called a foundational technical review. So I'll go into a bit more detail about the steps for going through an FTR in a little bit. You can then create an AWS marketplace listing and list your software on the marketplace. And there are different options for how you present your software on the marketplace. And then you can link that back to the offering. And so now you have a solution on the AWS marketplace. You've got an offering in the APN. And you're able to, you know, then pitch your software to prospective customers, also engage with AWS with sales teams and account managers at AWS to ensure that your solution is, you know, put forward on the table to a customer. If they are, you know, if a customer has approached AWS and said, okay, we're thinking of migrating the system to AWS, and we might purchase a cloud offering to replace it instead of lifting the software as is, and they ask for recommendations, your solution could be put forward. So next up, what is a foundational technical review? So essentially, it's a review of your solution, and it's considering your solution against best practices. So taking a look at how you're using AWS as a cloud, you know, how you've built your solution on AWS. It's based on the AWS well-architected framework. So if any of you are familiar with that, you'll recognize a lot of the sort of questions and content. It's sort of rounded off with a self-service spreadsheet. So I'll talk a bit about what's covered with that in a little bit, but essentially what you do to sort of close out that review is complete a spreadsheet listing out all of the processes that you're doing and the activities, just as a sort of sense check really that you are following those best practices. And essentially what those questions cover are but by and large three things really. It's not as simple as this. There are a lot more questions in the spreadsheet, but you can distill them down to these three things, and that is your platform secure? Do you have all of the security controls in place to make sure that data is protected? Is the solution resilient? So is it highly available? Does it have a good uptime? Is it able to survive a single server failure and so on? Does it scale? with customers that you onboard. And is it backed up adequately as well? Is data backed up? So essentially, what this review is doing is sense checking that all of these things are in place, so that AWS are happy that you've hit a technical bar, and then your solution could be promoted. I mean, AWS will not want to promote a solution that isn't secure, doesn't have backups in place, and isn't resilient. So buyers can be confident that anything that's put forward is fit for purpose, essentially. So I sat down and put together some recommendations for going through an FTR. Obviously, the review process is slightly different depending on what your solution is, and what technologies you're using. But the first thing to start with really is sort of think about what is in scope of what's under review. So for example, if you're an organization that has 5 different products, you probably want to get each of those through an FTR individually. So each piece of software has a qualified by AWS badge. You could review all of those, together if they're all sort of related and part of the same product suite. So sort of sitting down and thinking about what you're going to review and how you're going to review it. There might be some things that you can exclude from the scope of that as well. So maybe you don't need to look at test environments or sort of R&D sandboxes. But that's the first thing really, is to think about what you're running on AWS and what is going to be in scope of that review. The next thing, and I think this is the trickiest thing, is to work out how you're going to prioritize those reviews against other engineering team priorities. So when you're going through these review activities, you're going to need a bit of time from the engineering team to answer some questions about what they're doing, and sometimes that there's a balance to be struck between that and what they might be working on in their sprints. The other recommendation I'll provide is, although doing a well-architected review is not a strict requirement of getting through an FTR, if you don't do a well-architected review, you have to provide essentially the same level of evidence that you do have the security controls and whatnot in place. And the easiest way to do that is to just do a well-architected review. If you haven't been through one before, it's a very well-structured questionnaire based on a framework of best practice. There's about 60 questions, covers 6 pillars. So security, operational excellence, performance, reliability, cost optimization, and sustainability. And actually going through the well-architected review process and having that report will be quite useful. I think it was either Grace or Andy talked about sustainability being a sort of key feature of RFP process. It's a great way of evidencing that, right? If you can go through that review and have a look at how you're using AWS, and even just the sustainability pillar, and tick all of those boxes, and then that's a great way of, in the RFP process, saying your software's been through a well-architected review. This is where you stand from a sustainability standpoint, and likewise with security and reliability and so on. And then the last thing is, as you start going through this review process, it may uncover things that you need to resolve. So obviously, if we're sort of thinking happy path, you're doing everything according to best practice, then you'll just tick all the boxes for the review. And by and large, in most cases, there are 1 or 2 things that need to be improved on to pass the FTR. So the last thing that I'd recommend is thinking about a strategy for managing and resolving those high risk findings. So if you use the well-architected tool to do a review, you can now export, it's a relatively new feature, you can now export findings from that into Jira. and then you could put that into engineering team backlogs to resolve. That's one option, but there are other things that can be done as well. So having a sort of strategy and sort of carving out time to resolve those high risks is something I'd recommend doing. I just want to sort of circle back to what we do as a services partner at the Scale Factory. One option here is to sort of help you through this is to work with another partner. So it doesn't have to be us. You can obviously engage with another services partner. There are hundreds of them around the world. By working with a partner that has been through many well-architected reviews or foundational technical reviews, you can get some guidance through that process, helping sort of work out the scope of what needs to be reviewed, and taking you through the well-architected tool, and so on. The result of that is you get through the process a lot quicker than if you would do that yourselves. Reducing the burden of the dev team is probably one of the most valuable things, I think, is AWS cannot access your environments and go and have a look and see what you're doing from a security point of view and look in your accounts. So normally your developer team would have to go away and do that. But if you're working with a services partner, they could come in and have a look at your account and do that audit for you and report back to AWS. And then the other thing, really, just as a sort of cherry on the cake, is access to funding to remediate risks. So if high risks are found, then you can work with a services partner to help resolve those instead of putting that on your team's backlog. I've got a little customer case study here. So we worked with a company a few months ago called Akuva, and they had been trying to get themselves through an FTR for about a year, and they could just never get around to prioritizing it. So they made the decision to reach out to us, and we took them through that process. They passed the FTR first time, and we got some funding to cover the costs of some remedial work that they had to do. If you're signed up as an AWS software partner, and you are considering going through an FTR to get your solution, say, on the marketplace, or get co-sell opportunities, or that qualified software badge on your product to help with your own sort of marketing, we do have a couple of offerings for you. So the first is an FTR readiness assessment. So if you're sort of thinking, okay, well, yeah, we're interested in it, but we're not sure how much time and effort it's going to be for us, we just take an hour and we just do a quick check to see how you would fare with a foundational technical review. And that would give you some quick feedback on where you're at. And so that's something we do. It's entirely sponsored, so there's no cost. There's no cost to you as a software partner. Or if you want to speak a bit more generally about FTR or well architected, ahead of doing a readiness assessment, you could just have a 30-minute consultation with one of our solution experts on the team, and they'll take you through what I've talked about today in a bit more detail and customize to where you're at as a business. Or you can speak with your partner development manager or partner solutions architect at AWS, and they'll provide advice on how you can go through this process yourselves and do it as a self-serve. So that's my presentation concluded. I think we'll open up for Q&A now. And so if anyone's got any questions about what I've talked about, or what Raf or Andy or Grace covered, please feel free to ask away. So you can either do that. There is a chat option on Zoom, so you can type out a question, and we'll read those out and answer those. Or you can unmute yourself if you prefer to talk and ask away.
Many thanks, Mike. Any questions, anyone? We'll be providing a copy of the slides. We'll send them round on email after the event. And we'll also send round a very, very short questionnaire, because we're always looking for feedback on things that we can improve upon. So it'll only be, I believe, 5 questions. So it's multi-choice, very simple, very straightforward. So we'll send the link and the QR code for that round. If not today, then tomorrow. But yeah, thank you very much for joining. Any questions there? And
Hi
like Mike
guys, I've got a question.
yeah, go for it, Simon.
Okay, right. So just if I can. Yes. So I guess we've got a proposition, and our proposition has, dare I say, been on Azure for about nearly 10 years. But we've made the sort of a strategic thing along with Grace, that we want to move over to AWS, and of course, moving our solution over to AWS is, because I think and I've got Chris Eccles on the phone, so he's going to correct any sort of technical things I get wrong. But basically, we're using platform as a service. And what we were trying to do is actually replicate what we did on Azure, which is pretty well architected, but the same thing on the AWS platform. We did some very, very basic stuff. So we actually did manage to stand up a service on AWS. However, it wasn't the same way that we would do it in platform as a service. I think we used individual components. So I guess there's 2 things. We need some help on actually trying to, discuss, trying to get somebody to help us with this sort of architecture point of view. And also then, because our product is aimed at frontline policing and frontline police officers, we also need to make sure that you meet all the, if there is any requirements for the police landing zone and all that other stuff, we just need to know what we need to do in order to basically transition our offering from Azure to AWS, which we're keen to do. And our product is a sort of an API first one. So we already work with people like, we talk to people like Informatum and Salesforce and all that. So we can see the value in what on this one, and also we're looking at potentially a global market. But the only thing is, we're a tiny company, and what we need is help and funding to help us to get started. So unless I've got anything wrong there, Chris, hopefully that gives you a starting point.
Yeah, hi, it's Chris here. No, that sounds great, Simon. But just to chip in that probably we have an opportunity here to build it to pass the FTR in the first place, rather than build it then do an FTR. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
No, so I will pass over to Mike in a minute, but Chris, Simon, fantastic question. I feel that when you were talking about where you are and your plans for migrating, that this webinar was designed really perfectly around your particular position and where you are and your plans for the future. Yeah, when it comes to help and supporting you to migrate, where there are AWS in-house technical teams. Obviously, there's a Scale Factory, so there's experts right across the board. And I'll let Mike talk a little bit, but there's also funding. So there are significant funding pots. There should be no internal cost to your business to migrate from Azure to AWS. So we can help you around that without a doubt. And when it comes to, I don't want to speak on behalf of Grace and her team, but I'm very, very confident that there's the in-house knowledge that they can help you when it comes to support, knowledge, the mechanics of selling into the frontline police, landing zones, connections. So yeah, it's I'm really pleased you asked the question, and I'm very, very confident we can help you with your plans for migration. So with that, Mike, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Yeah, good question, Simon and Chris. I think I mean, it sounds to me, if you're either looking to lift all of what you've got onto Azure onto AWS, or you're just looking to complement with an AWS offering, there are definitely options there. I mean, my mind jumps to the Migration Acceleration Program, and I think it'll be good to have a quick chat to see if you're eligible for that, and we could get you onto that as part of the migration acceleration program. As part of the build, it has to be well architected, and a well architected review is done as part of that. And often you can combine that with an FTR. So the solution as it's being designed and built is ticking all of the boxes. So that passing the FTR is just filling out a bit of paperwork and uploading it to the right form, really. Obviously the MAP program has funding attached to it, and it's quite significant, with lots of different options and things there. I won't go too much into detail about it, but I think it's worth a call, either to speak with the team at AWS about MAP in more detail, or we've got some migration experts in our team. We could set up a call and we could take you through MAP. Maybe do that as a sort of three-way call with AWS, somebody at the Scale Factory and yourselves, to talk about how to pull it all together.
That sounds great.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I guess, I mean, obviously, I know Grace because I think we spent some time in the US together, and obviously I know John Black and Fernando as well. So, in fact, there is speak of the devil, and he turns up. So I guess really it's just a case of we just feel like we're kind of stalled a bit where we are. We just need to get to that next bit, because I can see this as being really exciting. So. Yeah, so I'll leave it with one of you guys to hopefully get back to it. And I think when I saw this event with the Scale Factory in there, I thought, well, actually, that looks like it could be quite interesting to get some sort of external resources to help us push forwards.
That is, if I can chip in, guys. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, Simon, I'll connect with you guys. Obviously, happy to do again, initial review with our solutions architect team. See exactly where we are. I know we've been installed for a bit, but I think it's been a bit of a chicken and egg situation where we were also wondering if we're going to have that contract in place. But yeah, let's pick it offline. Happy to do the review, specifically on Pulse. I think our team is the best one equipped to discuss Pulse and the requirements. But yeah, let's have a thought. I'll also liaise with Mike and team, and we can have maybe a three-way call to see what's the best solution in terms of resources and funding. But yeah, I think our team is super capable of helping you out.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Chris. Any more questions?
I have a question.
Hi, Charles. Yeah, we can hear
you. Good morning to you all. My company, Fish Digital Forensics, we've tried in the past to provide an AWS service to the forensic environment in the policing sector, and have failed miserably, as offering as a software as a service. However, we're just starting to get traction where we're able to utilize the police AWS infrastructure. So it's like doing an on-prem, but we're using the police AWS accounts and infrastructure. What a market! You have all these lovely marketing concepts of that you'll help us. If we're not actually effectively, we won't become a customer of AWS. However, the police are. What kind of help can we get from you guys to promote our technologies, even though we're not an AWS account? Well, we are, but we don't, offer a service as such.
Good question. What I might do is, I don't know if Grace or Fernando or John, you would have an answer to that. I'm not close enough to the vertical.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick it up. Hi, Charles. Yeah, no, obviously happy to. I think we spoke a year or two ago. I don't know, but yeah, happy to reignite that conversation again. Obviously, the closer you are to us, the more consumption AWS we see, like the more resources we can bring. But yeah, obviously you're part of our territory, our account portfolio. You have John or myself. We can take care of you. We have a team of solution architects to also help you out. Then the marketing bit, we can help you out to co-sell. We don't sell on behalf of our customers because we are not equipped for that, but we will be happy to go together, see what's your unique selling point, and then go to those police forces where we believe there's a fit. What we're trying to do here is to connect the dots. Grace and the team, they have a very good expertise in the policing environment. They know, as Grace was pointing out at the beginning, we know what are the trends, what are the needs on the market, what police forces are in looking for a specific solution, a specific pain point, and then we try to match it up with the solutions that our ISVs offer. So we will be very happy to do that mapping together and see where the proposition fits.
Okay, that would be... Sorry, Karen.
Sorry, Charles, to interrupt. Yeah, I would just add the kind of the structure that you've just described is not atypical. We see that relatively frequently, and it's still a good thing, right? We're still helping the customer in one way or the other, driving AWS consumption. So a lot of these things you're still eligible for. So I'm more than happy, as Fernando says, to take that conversation with you offline.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Well, we've just done a big quote for one of your customers, and we're hoping good things. So we've actually got some live business, hopefully, shortly.
Excellent.
Great to hear.
That's very, very good news. I think from what Fernando and John have said, that's something we could arrange a follow-up call and talk around different funding routes that we've got available in different support channels. So yes, very exciting. Great questions, Charles. Any more questions? It's 11:20. Well, look, I'll wrap things up in that case. Thank you everyone for joining. Hopefully you found it interesting and insightful, and we'll send around the slides, follow up with a very short questionnaire. If you've got any questions, please contact Mike, Fernando, John, or myself, and we'll be happily jump on a call and support you in your endeavours. But many thanks for your time for joining us on the webinar this morning, and thank you everyone. Have a great day.
Very much. Thank you everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.
Yes.